What's up, everybody? It is episode 57 of Politically Conscious. I think I got the back. I keep putting it back up. Sorry, y'all. It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, coming at you, trying to get this. I keep putting it on and off. I hope I got it right this time. Hope it don't come pop back up. All right, cool. All right, episode 57. I got my man Shelly Winters and Emil Bryant back in here. We're gonna get right into the cuts today. If you are a first-time listener to the Politically Conscious show, we basically try to weed through clips in reference to what's going on in politics currently. And I have my brother Emil coming from the left of things, give you his perspective. I have Shelly coming from the right of things. We probably try to give it to you straight, no chaser. If you will, Emil, introduce yourself very briefly. Shelly, introduce yourself very briefly. We're going to start with a clip and get both of your takes on this clip as we talk about Iran and amongst other things today on episode 57. Thank both of you for being with me. Go ahead, Emil.
Emil Bryant, political consultant, author, speaker. I tell the candidates that I work with to tell the truth, tell it early, tell it often. Bad news does not get better with time. And the real reason I do that is because an informed voter is a good voter. That is, they want to know what's going on so they can vote with information and not emotion. If anyone tells you differently, they're lying to you.
Sounds good. Shelly, from the Shelly Winter Show, your quick introduction, and we're going to start the clips.
Shelly Winter, host of the Shelly Winter Show on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, every night, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m.
Nah, good stuff. All right, here's a clip that kind of shows we've been topsy-turvy when it comes to this Iran war. I want to give Politically Conscious a lot of credit. We've given you the real behind what's actually happening in Iran, not what the news is saying, but this clip is just someone giving their perspective, and I want to get both of you guys' perspective on what y'all think is actually happening versus this is the information that we're seeing online. It's an example of the information of what we're seeing online with someone with a lot of bias, if you will, kind of saying, hey, it's been topsy-turvy. Let me play this clip real quick.
Their military, we sort of left it alone because we think that their military is somewhat moderate. They have other people that aren't moderate. We've taken them out. We've taken different forms of leadership out. We've actually left their military alone. People would be surprised to hear that.
Yeah, no, super surprised. Super surprised to hear that, because for the last 3 months, this is all we've heard.
Their military is totally defeated. They've been obliterated, Jeff, obliterated.
We basically wiped out their military in about 2 weeks.
They're not doing well. They're getting absolutely decimated. Their military was decimated.
Militarily, we've wiped them out. They have no military left.
I took it out militarily.
Dude, I feel like I'm going insane. Which one is it? Has their military been obliterated, or has it been relatively untouched? It is so hard to keep up with the Iran war. And this comes as Iran...
Oh, you're on mute.
All right, sorry about that. I think this is how most people are seeing the Iran war. Just in general, they're getting clips like this where somebody says, hey, here's what Trump said before, here's what he's saying now. And this is basically a war that's happening on a geopolitical level that we've highlighted consistently on this show. Emil, I'll let you start. How, unfortunately, when it comes to geopolitics, we as even informed citizens to a degree will not always understand what's going on because of the long-term goals of geopolitics. Talk often that happens on a level that the average citizen won't be aware of. We might say, oh, the war is bad or the war is good, but the long-term effect could be good. And we've highlighted consistently as this guy, CFH Unfiltered, to give him his credit, he's pointing out Trump seems to be all over the place, but we've consistently said in the long term, this may be an issue that actually benefits us as a country. Your thoughts on people getting the topsy-turvy viewpoint when, again, there's a long-term effect that, again, may serve us in the future. Your thoughts, Emil?
So this is the problem with listening to this president. There was rumor from the Iran side, and I say rumor because nobody on the American side said that they were told by American officials to ignore everything the president says because it's all propaganda meant for a domestic audience's consumption. So if that rumor came out of this topsy-turvy concept, this is what you're seeing in the tactical or the day-to-day operation from the president, this and that, this and that. He's trying to keep someone off balance. he thinks the people who are working with him think that by keeping that audience off balance, it gives him strength in negotiation. Here's the problem that is being highlighted by this clip that I think is very accurate. It is that everyone else who's watching this is also playing a geopolitical game based almost entirely on not just what the president says, but how America acts based on that. So if we're negotiating based on this topsy-turvy nonsense, then they're going to ask rightfully, how should we respond to America? If you're looking at it from the long-term, bigger political issue, perhaps looking at China, then you have to look at what happened with Xi Jinping when Trump went over to China. Were they influenced in any way by all of this geopolitical activity through Iran? And from the outside, it looks like the answer is no. So the topsy-turvy messaging is going to an audience that this administration believes will be influenced or stay off balance, so they have a lever in negotiation. The problem is, I don't see the effect of that audience being influenced to the point where they're negotiating based on the uncertainty that this topsy-turvy messaging would demonstrate.
How do you see this, Shelley? Again, this is just a general approach. I'm going to play a clip from Mark Rubio. I think that gives us maybe more direction than that clip. Again, that's just a guy giving his perspective. How do you see that topsy-turvy viewpoint? I'll just say this real quick, Shelley, I'll let you go. While, again, the research that I've been able to find is there's a very specific long-term play that will be to the benefit of our country. That's what I think is consistent when it comes to this Iran war and the other factors, China, Israel, and all that kind of stuff. While I see that information being consistent, I don't know that Trump is always the best spokesperson, or is this actually strategy? Go ahead, Shelby.
Honestly, I think that at the end of the day, why do we go in February 28th? And to your point about long-term, benefits to the country, why do we go on February 28th and not say after the midterms? This whole thing has been, I think, erratic. The coverage, not the coverage, but the talking points. There was a great New York Times article that came out that said Rubio, Vance, Dan Kane were all against this. They all said that Netanyahu was full of caca and everything. And so, my point has been from the very beginning, the economy was chugging along. It was getting better. Gas prices were going lower, and people were feeling a little bit more confident. And then you attack Iran, and now we got almost $4 a gallon gas here in Georgia. And I just think that this thing is, from the beginning, is just badly run. It's highly unpopular. It's going to hurt Republicans in the midterms. And that's been my feeling since March 1st. And that clip just tells you how just discombobulated the whole entire thing is.
Montoya, you're getting your
no,
the desire to
understand
see
that.
You're frozen on my video.
Yeah, you're frozen. There you go.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, I can hear you, so keep going. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, for sure. We can hear you. What I'm saying
is,
I'm
gonna go in. I think you're live, so I'm gonna go in and out just in case it's just me. I'm gonna go in and out. So keep talking till I come back.
Oh, for sure. So the thing, and I think Shelley, you're hitting the head. Like, what are the things that this nation is going to get from this war? We have to ask that question. And if you're looking at it from a long-term geopolitical play, I don't know what setup we're going to get a payoff from later that this war would have indicated. There was no strife around the world. China, by all the indications that I've been reading, has not even dipped into its massive reserve of oil. And if it has, it hasn't done so with any significance. So right. China's not harmed. any other adversary, Russia, got more money because they were able to sell oil on the open market. So they're making money that helps them with the war in Ukraine. So I'm just not seeing how this administration has positioned us for a longer term, bigger geopolitical play while weakening the American economy, the trust and confidence of the American consumer. And we still haven't really talked about the damage to the military equipment, aircraft, and bases that are in the region from such precise targeting with help from China and Russia. So I'm not sure how we can justify that this war is doing anything other than damaging the reputation and perhaps even the military might of the United States without any sort of significant short-term or longer-term payoff that's evident in the strategy.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm not going to even stay away from that.
No, I got you. All right, let me go to this clip by Rubio, who I think has been, I would say, a God save publicly when it comes to a God sin is the word I meant to say. Publicly, when it comes to this war, he seems to be very rational in the administration from my perspective. But I'll play this clip and get y'all thoughts. Shelley, I'll let you respond first to this clip.
We are the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and we're in a stalemate with Iran. We are the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and we're in a stalemate with Iran. And now we're begging to get back into a deal that you all trashed in the first place.
There's no one begging. I don't
Clearly,
know.
this is
Senator
a
Senator Booker, your time's up.
But
Senator Rubio, since he's
I do want to
over,
address
you
some of these points because they go to the heart of the matter. No one's begging for anything here. The Iranians might be begging because their economy's losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. That they are losing. Understand, Iran had street protests going on before all of this started. All of those factors, economic factors in Iran, are far worse today than they were 6 months ago when those protests were happening. They have hyperinflation. Their currency's completely devalued. They're struggling to make payroll for their government workers. Iran is in a very serious situation. And if it was up to the political class there, and I understand everybody there is sort of radical in some way, but if it was up to the people that actually go to elections and wear the suits and you see on TV, they'd probably make a deal tomorrow. It's the issue they're facing is that the supreme leader and the IRGC Corps are a little bit more immune from those pressures until they can be convinced otherwise. And I think that's the direction that they're moving in, because the reality, I don't know where you're getting this perception that Iran is stronger. Iran has no navy left. They've lost a substantial percentage of their defense industrial base. That Iran has lost a substantial percentage of their missile launchers. And their economy is far worse today, and I mean far worse today, than it was 6 to 9 months ago. And they are looking at hundreds of billions of dollars of reconstruction costs just to get to where they were 6 months
Mr. Rubio, you keep telling us how we're winning this war. The president keeps saying,
well, the war's over
completely
now.
Annihilated. The war is not over. And yet the American people see how we're losing at the pump and with their costs, and yet this thing still hasn't been resolved. Every day he tweets out, oh, we've obliterated them, we've annihilated them, they're going to surrender, but yet we still find ourselves spending billions of dollars a week
Senator
on
Booker,
a war abroad.
Shed, I think Booker says kind of what you were saying a few minutes ago, which is obviously our individual American concern.
That's all we should be concerned about. I'm concerned with my pocket. I go to work every day. I just went to fill up on gas yesterday. Our great Governor Kemp, suspended the gas tax, saving us 33 cents a gallon for the last, I think, 2 months or so. But he had to, end that. And now I just spent $30 yesterday for a half a tank of gas. And, back in February, I was spending $20 for a half a tank. I mean, I fill up a lot because I move around a lot. And so this is unsustainable. And I didn't vote for this. I voted for no new wars, period, full stop. And now, within a year and a half of your second term, I'm at war with Iran. This is, I don't agree with it. I don't like it. And it's affecting my pockets.
Now, that's definitely a fair perspective. Emil, let me challenge you to go here based on some stuff we've talked about on this show, if you will. So, again, very valid perspective. I feel it too. I've paid the most I fill up my truck than I've ever paid here recently. Since I've had the truck. So I definitely understand it from an American perspective, American personal perspective. However, let me say this to you, Emil, and tell me what your thoughts are. However, You and Leo have been on this show both saying, we asked this question: would we have went to war had, for example, Kamala Harris been the president? And y'all both agreed, just based on the geopolitical stuff, the reality is we probably would have been at war still. Now, it may have been handled differently because we have two different perspectives and two different personalities. But y'all both agreed that we probably still would have moved forward in this war. Maybe not at the exact same time, but we would have moved forward, because here's some of the things that you're not going to hear on the news. For example, Iran and China has both had some movement in Cuba, for example, which is right in our backyard, right? Like, these are the type of bigger geopolitical plays. And we've already talked about part of the reason why we did it was not because Israel controlled us, but because we're trying to affect China, who's also trying to become the second superpower. Right now, we're still the lone superpower. So long term, if we're able to affect Iran, then we're able to stop China possibly becoming what they want to become, which, again, as an individual American, I'm just going to be concerned about the pump, which is quite understandable. But long-term wise, we're positioning ourselves to keep our position against China, which would include me having to suffer through the pump. Again, I'm just talking about the reality of the geopolitical play versus me as an individual. Give us some concept on that, and then we're going to get into another subject.
So this is the challenge for the American consumer, the American voter, is really, really kind of manifold. And I'll just say it this way. With Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba operating as they were, was our economy affected? Was the gas price affected? Were people feeling some sort of pinch in politically, economically, as a citizen or as a consumer? The answer to that is no, and now they are. So they do have a right to complain. The other side of the issue is Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba, along with North Korea, are the thorns in America's diplomatic heel, right? These are places where we have always had some issue with and tried to figure out a better way. I believe Kamala would not have gone to war immediately. She would have tried to revive the JCPOA, the agreement that President Obama had. Had that failed, then perhaps she would have had to use force. But the idea that those three nations are thorns in our heel and therefore require some sort of massive intervention. There's a blockade outside of Cuba, there's a blockade outside of Iran, and we snatched the president of Venezuela out of his home in the middle of the night. That they required some sort of intervention is debatable. And this is where we talk about this geopolitical challenge that America has. We have always, for the last 50 years, when it comes to Iran, the last 30 years, 25 years with Venezuela, and for over 60 years in Cuba, we've had these three countries messing with our diplomacy, messing with our ability to exert American power across the world. Now they're not as big a problem. The question that every voter should ask is, does that manifest in something positive for America? And how does that positive manifestation affect me? Because right now, we're not seeing it. We're seeing a disruption to global oil markets that's going to last several more months, even if this deal is done. If this deal is done, there's a significant loss to America's reputation in terms of being able to make a threat and follow through with that threat, because Iran has resisted so much. So these are all questions that the average person may not necessarily ask, but will definitely feel. And we have to ask, was Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba as a block of nations really so bad that they required this kind of intervention at this time?
Hey, only time will tell on long-term stuff. We can't get that answer right now. That's the reality. I know a lot of strategists suggest that this period, when it comes to the geopolitical stuff, may end up being a positive in the long term. I'm just telling you what the strategists are saying.
I don't disagree. I'm just asking.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I want to go to
see it that way.
The next cut talks about the actual deal, and you've been talking about that thoroughly on this show. So this is from Isaiah Martin, left-leaning guy that's highlighting he doesn't like what's happening with the deal. Definitely want to get both of y'all thoughts on this.
The news of the day is that Trump is about to unfreeze $20 billion of Iranian assets in exchange for their stockpile of enriched uranium. Now, if that sounds interesting to you, it's because that is more than 10 times the amount of money that Barack Obama unfroze to the Iranians with his deal. A deal that effectively brought their stockpiles to zero. So what you have here is the Iranians about to get 10 times the amount of money than the deal we literally were in before Trump ripped it up. Let's go a little bit deeper here. To get this fleece of a deal, we had to spend $2 billion a day of your money. Your money. The money that you just went and paid to the government for tax day, that was spent for the Iranians to get more money. American service members lost their lives. People in general lost their lives. All for this deal. Again, there's only one person who can really explain just how much money Trump is about to give to the Iranians.
Cash, green cash. Took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., then Maryland, all the cash they had. Flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president.
You got one thing right. They're legit laughing at this man because they fleeced him out of more money than they ever could have imagined. Generations of kids are going to be reading about this in their history books one day about what happens when America elects stupid people in office.
So Isaiah Martin, obviously a left-leaning guy. This is his perspective on this current deal. Emil, I know you understand these deals better than anyone. I remember the first thing you highlighted on this show before anybody was even talking about the deal. You're saying, hey, we had these things in place under the Obama administration, so I don't understand what we're doing here. But in the event that they get this deal and it costs us $20 billion, what's your perspective on what's propaganda and what's not, and what Isaiah Martin had to say?
So this is a challenge because the administration itself, except for what you showed with Marco Rubio, which I think was a great clip, you're just not getting a consistent story, right? So President Trump has declined certain offers from Iran. He's offered certain things that Iran's declined, but we don't really know. What we do know, for instance, is that the enriched uranium is the issue. When did Iran start enriching uranium? The day after President Trump backed out of the deal, right? That's when they started enriching uranium again. So now we just are trying to go back to this point where we have to stop them from enriching uranium, and then further, we have to get rid of it. The nation of Kazakhstan has agreed to take their enriched uranium in the interim to kind of cool heads and calm things down. So we have a third party that can store the enriched uranium. We have a deal to give Iran back some of its frozen assets that we froze years ago. And we have an opportunity to, quote unquote, get out of this war something that we wanted, which was that Iran would not have the ability to craft a nuclear weapon. All of that is the ongoing negotiation. There are sticky points about how much money, when does that money get delivered, in what form does it get delivered, and then the future of Iran's nuclear energy program, because that's also in play. Those are all things that Isaiah Martin did not talk about that I think should be talked about if you're going to have this conversation. Those are things that allow for a broader, more comprehensive view of this deal other than the cash for uranium. It's much bigger than that. We have to look at the potential for a Iranian nuclear energy program. We have to look at the potential for third party nations to help with this, which is part of our diplomatic push. And we have to look at the ongoing rebuild of the Iranian regime, the Iranian population, the Iranian infrastructure, because that's going to have a big play as to how Iran influences the rest of the region. And all of that is part of this deal that's not being discussed in that clip.
Shelley, any thoughts on what Isaiah Martin said, that, what's real, what's not from your perspective?
I think, again, he bashed the deal that Obama agreed to. Iran was not complying with the deal. Like you said earlier, Montoya, there is a bigger picture here. First of all, let's be clear. Iran is a supporter of terrorism in the region. All right, let's understand that. They are who they are. Now, if you want to define terrorism as freedom defenders or, however you want, but they are funders and supporters of terrorist groups in the Middle East, okay? And they are seeking to get a nuclear weapon. I would also. Israel has nuclear weapons. I need nuclear weapons. I mean, I'm not, arguing with their reasoning. They are trying to get nuclear weapons. And I'm not sure that's a good thing. And the reason why I'm not sure that's a good thing is because they're run by a theocracy. And I'm not sure people who believe in religion to a point where it runs and rules their entire lives should have weapons of mass destruction. That's just me, right? But I think that to the Isaiah Martin's point, Trump is giving more money back. Let's understand that. And I say this to my conservative friends all the time. The $1.7 billion that Obama gave Iran was their money that we froze. The $20 billion that Trump is giving Iran is their money that we froze. Okay. And so, we're not giving them American taxpayer dollars in either case. But it's just that because the sanctions that were put in place after Obama, more money was generated than was generated for the sanctions before when Obama gave 1.7. So to Mr. Barnes kind of playing the game that conservatives played when Obama did it. It's kind of playing that sleight of hand semantic game. Mm-hmm. But in all of this, we have to understand, like you said earlier, there's a reason why no other president went in there. Mossad and Israel has told Obama, Bush, Clinton, who else? And Trump's first term and Biden, they all told him the same story. Got to attack Iran, got to attack Iran. Nobody else did it. Going back as far as Reagan, nobody did it. Reagan didn't even bomb Lebanon after the Marine barracks
situation
attack. And the reason for that is because it's a quagmire. If I'm fighting you, Montoya, because you did something to me and we have a fight, right? You beat me up, I beat you, whatever happens, right? You'll probably beat me up because you're former military, but whatever happens. But when you're fighting people who are not afraid to die or actually want to die because their religious beliefs tell them that they're going to go to a better place and they fundamentally believe that, you can't win that war ever.
That's what happened in Vietnam. Yeah, that's what happened in Vietnam. That's exactly. Yeah, there was no way we were going to win the actual war, even though we didn't lose a battle because of the very thing that you're talking about. So absolutely, I definitely understand that.
This is the challenge that every administration has to confront whenever it uses force. Is it's not just will the American people tolerate it? That's what the War Powers Act and the authorization to use military forces for. It is also, can we achieve our strategic objective quickly? And quickly is relative. In less than a year might be quick, in less than 10 years might be quick. But can we achieve our strategic objective quickly and get out of that situation as cleanly as possible? If the answer is no, going back to Secretary of State and at the time General Powell's doctrine, if the answer is no, do not engage, because you have this risk of not just losing the strategic objective that you're trying to gain, but you end up perhaps chewing through military assets, hardware, and suffering reputational damage, which makes us less threatening to our other geopolitical adversaries. So you have all of that to consider before you say, let's do it, which is why most presidents said,
don't go in. That makes so much sense. Yeah, it makes so much sense when you understand that doctrine. And basically what you're saying is it looks like this administration failed to heed that doctrine, because getting out is never going to be simple no matter what they tell us, right? That's your
getting out is always the challenge. Look at Afghanistan. People want to blame Joe Biden, but Joe Biden was set up by Trump. And I'm not saying Trump did the wrong thing or the right thing. Getting out is always ugly. Look at the end of Vietnam. Look at the end of the first Desert Storm. When we did get out cleanly, it was still rough. And we left a mess. And then when George H.W. Bush promised to help the Kurdish people and didn't deliver on that promise, that was us not leaving. That was not us leaving cleanly. Like, there's always these lingering points of contention.
Appreciate that perspective. Create that perspective. Kenny says there's zero enriched platinum or uranium. He said Trump lied. We were seeing a repeat of Desert Storm oil, no WMD. He says, bonus, he stalled the growing EV market. MAGA owes this, according to his perspective. All right, here is a guy by name Sean Ryan. He's considered a conservative. He's very upset at the corruption in general with the administration. I'm definitely curious to both of y'all thoughts. I know I will highlight on the show previously, Emil, one time you said this corruption is another level. And I remember Shelley saying Biden did it too. So I would definitely want to see where y'all go today at the point of Sean Ryan saying, hey, this is further than what we've seen, at least from that's the perspective I get. Shelley, we'll start with you. And this is from this cut with Sean Ryan.
I just don't see any positivity coming out of this administration. It seems very self-serving. I have a list of shit printed I could go through, but I mean, what was the last one? He fucking made it so he had Todd Blanche do the dirty work so that him or anybody in his family could never be audited by the IRS. What the fuck is that shit?
Mm-hmm.
The drone company, the $400 million jet from Qatar.
Yep.
What is it? The Executives Club. You know about that?
Yeah, that they started in DC.
You don't hear about any of this shit.
Yeah.
Does this shit look like he's serving the fucking people? No. So you're going to serve that? Or are you going to speak out against it and let everybody know what the fuck is happening?
You think he'd be better off?
Fox News sure as fuck isn't reporting any of this shit.
None of it. None of it. No, there's no question that the corruption in the administration has been far beyond what
he sued the fucking government. He sued his own fucking government.
All right, Shelley, I'll bring that to you. I don't know. I've seen Sean Ryan. I don't know his background, whether he's a true, if he's a true conservative or a conservative that's now out on Trump. I don't know his background.
No, I'll tell you. Let me tell you, everybody, and to Kiani 77. If you listen to my show since the Big Beautiful Bill, okay, that's last fall, I've been increasingly critical of this administration. Yes, I voted for it. I'm not going to back down on my vote. I had a choice between two people. I voted for Trump. And let me say this. Would I have cast the same vote if you told me all of these things would be done from the Big Beautiful Bill on down? Absolutely not. I probably would have skipped over the race. I wouldn't have voted for Kamala, but I would have skipped over the race. But my point is, I've been increasingly critical. And this is just another thing that I've been on my show nightly, been critical of. Interestingly enough, many conservatives told me that back then, as I got more and more critical of specific things. I don't have what they call TDS, but I also don't have what I call Trump love syndrome, where whatever he does, I support, right? So I've been increasingly critical of this administration. And if you listen to my show, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m., you will see that. A sidebar. Interestingly enough, I have the highest numbers since I've been on a radio with the Shelley Winter Show on the #1 news and talk station. Like, I'm regularly top 5. I'm beating urban stations in an urban market, and the Braves are playing great baseball, and I'm beating the Braves on radio. And the reason for that is, and I'll tell you the reason for that, is because there are a lot of Trump voters just like me and Sean Ryan and Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson who are increasingly disenfranchised from this administration. Is Sean Ryan right? Absolutely. They got mad at Hunter Biden for, check this out. Fox News and Republicans got mad at Hunter Biden for selling $25,000 paintings, right, as part of the corruption. Victor Hanson Davis wrote a book called The Biden Crime Family, right? For real.
Okay.
Obama cut a deal with Netflix after he got out of office for, I think, $300 million to do, content providing. All of these were seen as payoffs. Right? Kind of backdoor payoffs, right?
Okay.
What's going on now is that's why when Emil said, I said, the Biden administration, that was way back before many things came out.
That happened, yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, what's going on now is, one, you see Trump saying, They did it. I'm going to do it better. Right? But the second thing, and this is where the real corruption comes into play.
Okay.
When you bring people into your administration who know that you're going to grift and be corrupt, they're going to be also. So there are a lot of people in this administration who gravitated to Trump after his first term in order just to take money and be corrupt, period. That's it. They don't care. They don't care about the country. They don't care about nothing else. They're just going to rape and pillage and steal. And the reason why Sean Ryan made that comment about, are you going to say anything? That's why I'm saying something, is that, I'm not going to defend my vote to the point where I say, no, I'm right. I'm going to go down with the ship when it's so clearly corrupted. They just said the $1.7 billion, what I call reparations bill fund, they just said it's not going to happen.
Right.
Trump, in an interview, said, no, it's still going to happen. Todd Blanche said it's not going to happen. But the biggest part of that deal is not the $1.7 billion fund. It's relieving or protecting Trump and his entire family against any audits from the IRS. Now, I think as an American voter, forget what side I vote on. If you're allowed to do that for him, I don't need to pay a jack nothing anytime. And if you knock on my door and say, "Hey, Mr. Winter, we're going to take you to jail for not paying your taxes," I'm employing the Trump rule. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to tell my lawyer to argue in a court of law. Well, no, this is the Trump rule. If he can be blocked from being audited or any way, shape, or form targeted by the IRS, so can 330 million people. Period. And that's, it's disgusting what's happening. And there are a lot of us, and I say us Republicans, myself, I'm not putting myself in their influence category, but myself, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, there's a lot of people, whether you like them or not, who are speaking up. And you see their numbers climbing because there are a number of Trump voters out there who are also complaining. But because the vitriol that comes at you, I said on my show the other night, I get the same vitriol from Trump supporters now that I got from Black Democrats when I was supporting him. It's the same anger. It's the same rah.
Let me jump in, Mill, in here. Let me jump here, and on this, in this one area, Emil, I feel like this is, I feel like for anything whether you supported Trump or didn't support Trump, I think this is the one part I fully expected from day one, just based on who he's been throughout his history. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I am not surprised by this part of it at all. And I remember you on this show over a year ago, just highlighting, hey, we've never seen it at this level. Like you were saying it when it first started, but I'm also not surprised by it. Any thoughts on that, Emil?
So this is the challenge that I think, people who either were blinded willfully or just, believed that their side was right no matter what. This is where we really have to ask the hard question: what are checks and balances for, right? So if the president can sue himself, basically the executive branch is suing the executive branch, which is controlled by the president, then the question is, who's the check and balance? That would be the courts, right? So then that deal would have to go through the courts. Before that deal even went to a court, it was settled and done. So there was no check or balance. And that's the system of government we say we believe in. So the corruption isn't just in this particular deal. It is in the fact that the executive branch is executing on its own merits. And by the way, is where does $1.776 billion come from? It should come from Congress. Congress has to authorize and appropriate that money. And yet we haven't had any discussion about whether or not Congress should be in there until the Republican senators began to say, oh, how are you, are you going to put this in the reconciliation for other things? And the answer to that was like, no, because we don't think this is right. the point of checks and balances is to make sure no one party, one person, one entity in our government can unilaterally decide to do something so egregious as give itself blanket immunity from all things. And if you look at the addendum to the deal, as it was written, it wasn't just tax audits, it was everything. It was, and I'm going to quote just one sentence from this. I just need y'all to hear this. Any matters currently pending or that could be pending, including tax returns filed before the effective date, before defendants or other agencies or departments. That is a lot of liberty to give the president now and in perpetuity. It's not just.
So let me respond this way real quick. Wow.
Right.
Now here's the other part. Tell me so that I understand. Again, I'm the moderator here. Who agreed to this? Help me understand that part of it. And I want to go to another clip. If you can, just give me a short answer to who agreed to let the president do this.
Right. So this settlement agreement, and I use the air quotes because it's an agreement and not a settlement. A settlement goes through the courts. A judge has to bless a settlement, but an agreement does not. So the president of the United States, acting as president of the United States, sued the IRS for having breached his privacy as a citizen when a contractor released his tax records when he was a candidate for office. As president, he's the head of the executive branch and therefore the IRS, as well as who was representing the IRS, the Attorney General. That's the nation's lawyer. Okay. So the Attorney General, whose boss is the president. So now the president is controlling both sides of the supposedly adversarial system. So now you have a negotiation with the Attorney General and the president, who, acting as president, sued the federal government, and that negotiation resulted in this deal. So you are absolutely seeing a problem because there's no external check or balance. Had they come to an agreement and run that through the courts would have been the check function. But they didn't run it through the courts.
Yeah, they avoided it on purpose.
As part of the settlement agreement, President Trump dropped the case before it ever got to the courts.
Got you. So yeah, that's how they got away with it. Kenny says everyone knew this man is a con man. They wanted to own the lobsters. Now rural America is hurting from the policies they voted for, and suddenly they are. Oh, he says, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Lobsters they wanted to own the libs. Now rural America is hurting from the policies they voted for, and suddenly they are complaining. Again, keep the comments coming. We got y'all. Here's a quick clip. I know Shelly only has a short time. I want to get through. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna skip this clip because I want to get into this thoughts before Shelly has to get to another thing. So I'm gonna skip this. I'll just say what it was. It was a comment about what happened in New Jersey. I'll be honest. I've been on vacation, so I haven't kept up with everything politically. But I guess the protests in New Jersey involve, in a sense, the police acting against those protesters in a way that Jolly Ginger, we played some of his clips on the show before, in a way that he felt was basically out of line and didn't allow for the right to protest in the correct manner. That was his perspective. I'm going to skip that because I didn't promote that. I was hoping we could get to it, but I definitely wanted to get to this thought. This sister Nina Turner talks about the Democratic Party and how they've emasculated black men. I definitely want to get both of your thoughts on this. So let's play this clip and let me hear what you guys have to say about this before Shelly has to go.
For me, the Democratic Party emasculates black men. Wow. And I think Hispanic men probably feel the same way. And I say this because they weaponize identity. When and where we enter, who we are, how we identify is important to who we are, just like our fingerprints. But if you're not going to use my identity to advance a social justice cause, and you're just going to use my identity as a blunt force object, now I got a problem. And so what the Democratic Party does, they put black women on a pedestal and they say, we're the mothers of the movement, or we saved the party. But yet you don't put forth policies that save black babies. You don't put forth policies that deal with the maternal death rate of black women and black babies in the United States of America. You don't do those things that lift and edify. Yes, identity is important. Both parties use it differently. Republicans use it to say that everybody black or brown or of a mixed race is somehow kind of way a DEI hire. They use it to say certain books will be banned. Don't tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how this country was formulated, because you might hurt a white child's feelings by saying that, yeah, chattel slavery existed, and oh, by the way, white powerful folks stole the land from the indigenous people. So all of those things, Chinese Exclusion Act, I mean, we can go down the list. But Democrats use it in a way that alienates other folks, and it offends me. So when I talk to black men across this country, they don't see themselves in this party. It's one thing to recognize the power and prowess of black women and the sacrifices that we make. It is another thing to put us above black men. The black struggle, black men and black women have to be together. We don't have the luxury to be separated, and so I resent the Democratic Party for doing that. And so black men do not.
Shelly, I'll let you respond to Nina Turner's clip, her perspective, just highlighting, she resents the Democratic Party for, in a sense, how they treat black men and Hispanic men to an extent. Your thoughts, I will highlight, because we don't have a lot of time with you, I will also highlight that to a degree, the Trump administration, in a sense, took, and rightfully so, I'll say, took advantage of that feeling. I always highlight that as African Americans, I'm not sure that we should be tied to either party. Again, I always like to make my independent claim out here. But with that said, what are your thoughts about what Nina had to say before you have to go? I want to get your thoughts, because I know you got to
go. I mean, I have always said this. Understand this from a political standpoint. First of all, we have to understand this, and Emil can confirm this. Black men as a singular demographic are the lowest participants in voting of all the different demographic groups per population size. Now, the next question is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Do we not participate because we don't care, or do we not participate because we never get anything done for us? That's a question that can be answered at some other point, some other show. But the Democrat Party is like any other institution. It's like the black church. Go to any black church and there's more black women in there. Educational system. Go to any college. You got more sisters going to college than brothers. That might have changed slightly over the last couple of years, but generally speaking, ever since the middle 70s, culture, society, the rules have set up this system where black women are rewarded in scholarships, more scholarships, on and on and on. You have affirmative action. I hire a black woman. I kill two birds with one stone, on and on and on. So black men have been under this, immense pressure in all areas of society. We won't even get into criminal justice. And the Democrat Party is just one more institution that's losing the support of men that have been losing support from, generally speaking, most institutions in the black community, church, education, and now politics. And I don't know that the Democrat Party can get them back, especially as they talk about changing definitions and talking to a small 1% of the population in the LGBT movement, and trans rights and all of these kind of issues that most people, right or left, don't really care about in the end of the day when they can't afford gas or food. So no one, I tell Republicans all the time, stop talking about men and girls sports. No one cares about that when gas is almost $4 a gallon. And so that's what I feel about that. The Democrat Party is just seeing what other institutions have seen, with black men raising up and realizing that they're not important to the body politic, or they're not treating them as important to the body.
And Shelley, this is the challenge that I think we are, because we're at a crossroads that I don't think we're past the tipping point where black men are not going to participate in mass. But I am I think we're closer than we've been in a very long time, perhaps since the 70s, where you just see this lack of engagement for fear that you're not going to hear me anyway. Montoya and I and other shows have talked about how there's tons of policies and programs that have actually benefited Black people, but the Democratic Party rarely puts those front and center. If they refuse, and there's, Nina Turner said, like, there's a Black maternal health caucus in Congress. They introduced what's called the Momnibus bill, which was a collection of bills related to Black maternal health specifically, and they have a tracker and stuff. And if you go back to 2023, there was a reauthorization of the Maternal Health Care Act that was up for, it was introduced by the Democrats. So these are things that the Democrats have done for Black women specifically. Now let's try to find a parallel for Black men that is just as conspicuous. You don't see it. And that's why you're seeing so many Black men throw their hands up and say, if you're not going to talk to me, if you're not going to talk about me, except for I'm a problem, then perhaps I shouldn't participate in a system where one side is actively hostile and the other is actively neglectful. How do you get them to participate? Again, I don't think that we're at the point of no return, but I do think that we're at a turning point where the Democratic Party has to start asking harder questions of itself, like, do we really want Black men? And if so, are we really going to enact, talk about, advertise the things that we know we have done and the things we know we can do on their behalf? Because they're just as valuable a demographic as all these other ones that get names and policies and opportunities out front in the party eye. I don't know where the Democratic Party is leaning.
Let me say this and let Shelly go, because I know he has to go.
I'll say this.
Can y'all hear me? Because I know I'm having bad connection on my end. I want to let Shelly go. Oh, y'all can hear me? Okay, cool.
Good. Yeah. Let me say this before I go.
One question to you, Shelly, and let you go. Yeah, one question, and then I'll let you go. One question in addition is, I think everything y'all are saying is very valid. My question to you, Shelly, for example, is, with the DEI stuff, there's no money going towards the maternal stuff right now. That's a reality under this administration. So I just wanted to kind of throw that at you. Doesn't affect directly the Black men thing, like he said. However, we're seeing a lot of that under this administration. The way DEI was falsely used has a lot of stuff not getting funded that has helped our community. The maternal thing doesn't necessarily help Black men specifically, but it affects our community. So I wanted to throw that out in your closing. Any thoughts to that and what you want to say, and I'll let you go.
I'll tell you why. I've said this for time immemorial. The problem with us is we label things that get us in trouble. If you're going to fund something or do a grant or do an organization for Black men, just do it for men, and everybody that comes through are Black men. That's the first thing. The second thing is, a lot of these things were just funneling money to Democrat power brokers, and that becomes the problem. Look, why should and I'm not shading anybody, but why should the 100 Black men, when Obama did My Brother's Keeper, that money went primarily to entrenched older Black groups, millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars, and they did things like poetry in schools and things like that. They were connected people who got that money. The money never made it to the actual people that needed it and fixed anything. And so when you have these programs, what tends to happen is, I'll tell you, because I worked in a business, I can tell you. So you have a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Coca-Cola, right? So here's what happens. Coca-Cola, Shelley Winter and the Shelley Winter Foundation has a big gala. Coca-Cola buys a table for like $10,000. I have this gala. Everybody at the gala is already upper middle class bourgeois boule types. And Coca-Cola is just giving me or NAACP or UNCF or whomever it is this money to protect it from any attacks from the Black community. That's it. And so these programs, when it comes to government money, were just washing money for the Democrat Party. And I knew why it was going away. And quite honestly, as an African-American male, it should have gone away. because it wasn't helping the people. It wasn't doing anything for the people. It was just keeping the already entrenched the black political power structure in place by keeping them well funded and their allies well funded, and that was it. And so, I'm all for it. It doesn't matter to me, it really doesn't. And I'm
good
out
stuff.
on that.
I know you got to go, brother. I'm gonna let you go.
By the way, this Sunday,
thank you for.
Yeah,
right, cool.
This Sunday, for all the people listening, I try to put it in the chat, but I had to sign up for YouTube or something like that. But this Sunday, I'll be at Ackworth Beach in Cobb County, Lake Allatoona, Ackworth Beach, Cabo Beach is called, from 10 to 8 p.m. Food, music, bring your own liquor, bring your own chair to sit in. But there's a man-made beach up there. It's wonderful, best kept secret in Georgia. So I'll be up there all day Sunday. Everybody's invited. Just come up. And it's a social event, so please don't come up there with your politics, wanting to debate, or we're not doing that. We're just having a great time at the beach. So everybody's invited. Talk to y'all later.
Nah, cool. Nah, thank you, brother. I'm gonna put your handle on the show so anybody can follow you and keep up with everything you just said. Thank you, brother. All right, can you hear me okay, Emil? Because I'm having trouble hearing you guys.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Trying to make out what y'all are saying. All right, I'm gonna play this one. Okay, cool. All right. Any thoughts to what he had to say? Obviously, he's pointing out how the money gets misused. I would offer as a challenge to him. Obviously, he had to go. I don't think all the money is used in the manner that he's talking about, but there is a reality to the fact that a lot of the money just goes to entrenched people who are in the system, as he said, for the reasons that he said. But I also know people who are boots on the ground that receive some of that money actively and actually do the work. And I feel like we're in a state right now where that money is not coming through. I've seen some of those same organizations that actually help the community. They're dried up and having to figure out how to fend for themselves because, again, let me highlight this. There was money that came through the American Save Act that actually cleaned up a lot of the things that we complain about as Black people. Currently, people are unaware of, for example, how much crime was down just last year and the year before, all as remnants of the money that went to in the right places, in my opinion, for the first time. All things that, again, people may think I'm going for the Democrats right now. All these things that they never talk about.
See, and that's the thing. I will talk about it since I'm supposed to be from the left side. This is the thing that I think is so challenging for Democrats from their perch, if you will. Are you going to talk about it? Build Back Better, Inflation Reduction Act helped thousands of communities get clean from toxic waste and pollution. Those communities that were primarily affected were Black communities. Let's be very real. Poor communities, Black communities, they should be touting that. They should be touting how there were some significant education gains during the Biden administration. Didn't talk about it. In schools that needed those gains, didn't talk about it. If you're going to do the thing, talk about the thing. To Shelley's point, we ran across a concept, you and I, Montoya, called targeted universalism. I'll just say it that way. And that is something the Democrats need to do more of. You're going to have to make a universal program whose main target is a specific group of people. You do that, you can get some of those Black male voters back into your fold. You won't get them all back because a lot of them see the smoke and mirrors for what they are. But there's a subset of those people who have left who are eager to come back if you would just tell them what you did on their behalf, because they don't think you are, even though the data's there.
And I'm talking about clearly, and this is if you're a first time watcher of the Politically Conscious show, I'm a data hog for real. I love digging into data, and if the Democrats do something well, I'm going to say it. If the Republicans do something well, I'm going to say it. So I'm saying this for people who've never maybe watched the show. And so, clearly, I watch people consistently say, what has politics done for our community? And I'm left scratching my head because I look in the data and I see what actually gets done. I know that watched in the prior administration, Trump loudly beat his chest when he helped get those fathers out of jail with the, I forgot the name of the act. So he claimed his win for our community loud and clear.
Sure did.
So, and I highlighted for those who say, "Oh, nothing. What did he ever do?" And I'm just talking about what happened in none of those things are happening in this administration. Let me be clear. But I'm just saying, for example,
right.
What I'm saying, when there were more black fathers let out than because to Obama's credit, that got started under him. Trump let out more. I'm talking about people with long-term drug thing, some of them even minor things in jail for a long time because of previous law acts. Those are changes that actually happen. Again, wherever the numbers are, I look at them where they at. I will give credit. Well, the reality is, people literally think nothing has been done. When, like I said, I do a community event called the Mental Dialogue Community Club, live experience once a month. I can tell you, Emil, again, people literally think things are worse in our community than they actually are right now because they don't know the recent data. That's not nobody's fault outside of the people that do the work that never highlight the fact that they did it.
This is my biggest beef with the Democratic Party, because at the local level they do a better job of it, but at the national level they do a horrible job of it. And the problem that, like, I'm a voter in Virginia, so I see what Governor Spanberger signed into law, right? And the Democratic House delivered a bunch of stuff that she signed into law. Here's the problem. There was some stuff that they wanted that the legislature passed that she vetoed. And there is a big kerfuffle right now because of that. So in other words, the Virginia Democratic machine produced and enacted a bunch of stuff that they said, and they're bragging about it. They're talking about it. This is what we campaigned on. This is what we're doing. At the national level, it just leaves my head scratch, like, why don't you do the same thing you do in Virginia, the same thing you do in other places? It's just really, really weird to me that they don't message as well at the national level that they do at the local level for things like what happened here in Virginia.
Hey, I'm gonna get you to respond to this cut. I'm gonna play one last cut and get you out of here. Let's see. John Patrick says Democrats write bills that give millions of dollars to organizations who in turn give back to the Democratic Party. He says this was seen through the Doge cuts. I think he's right about the original statement. I don't think the Doge cuts helped us see any of it based on the information I looked up. I felt like the Doge cuts actually end up not showing us anything because of the eternal audits that the government already has that actually still show way more than the Doge ever showed. Like that's my recollection of Doge.
I told you a long time ago about Doge.
So I just, like I said, I think he's right in what he's saying. I just don't think that Doge pulled out any of it. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong, because Doge didn't do that. All the different ethics office and inspector generals, the Government Accountability Office, they all did all that work. And and to his point about the Democrats give money and then they get kickbacks, that's across the board. That's not a Democratic thing. That's all of the governments working that way. So we don't have to isolate. What we want is, are we the people getting something for all of that movement? If the answer is no, we got a problem.
No, good stuff. Kenny says, real quick, one more cut, and I'm going to play this last cut. He says, people look at things via anecdotal evidence and not the stats. Absolutely. Confirmation bias is how people look things up. So, yeah, good point, John Patrick. Just realized those didn't do any of what you said. That, again, we have our government officers are already doing it across the board for checking both parties for this type of stuff. So that's just the reality of how that happens. Let me play this cut. I think this is a broader cut from his name is Galloway. I can't forget his first name right now. But he makes this point of what
Scott Galloway,
Trump and them in a sense. Yep, exactly. Scott Galloway. Yep. Let me play this cut. I think it's remnants of what we were talking about with the black men specifically, but this is the bigger picture from my perspective. I want to hear your thoughts and we'll close out. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for the comments. Let me get this last cut and get us out of here. We call this period extra ends when we go, so y'all know we haven't said term in a while. You get this pulled up. A little trouble inside the thing here. I have a slight delay, y'all, so that's why I've been going in and out, just so y'all know. It's affecting me right now trying to get to this last clip. Here we go. Almost got it. Thank y'all for your patience. We pop up once a week. Wish we could pop up regularly at the same day, but I have to get together with three other brothers, so it's not really easy. But we do this once a week, so we'll.
The Democrats have been criticized for losing young men.
Yeah.
Like, where do you see that loss, and how do you see them regaining that?
So to be fair, the far right recognized the problem first. The problem with that is their remedy is to take us back to the 50s, where non-whites and women had less opportunity. The opportunity for Democrats is one to see them. If you go to the Democratic National Committee's website, it says who we serve, and it lists 14 demographic groups, from veterans to seniors to the disabled to Asian Pacific Islanders. I added it up, Jordan, it's 74% of the population. When you say we're explicitly, overtly serving 74% of the population, you're not serving 74% of the population, you're discriminating against 26%. I saw a parade of special interest groups at the Democratic National Convention, but the only group not mentioned was the group that has fallen furthest fastest in America, that's young men. So the first thing is to see them. The next thing is to move in with real programs. We screw this up, we can unscrew it, right? A lot of these programs would lift up young people in general. People under the age of 40 are 24% less wealthy. People my age are 72% wealthier, because old people have figured out a way to vote themselves more money. And when Congress is a cross between the land of the dead and the Golden Girls, you have a $40 billion child tax credit gets stripped out of the infrastructure bill, but the $120 billion cost of living adjustment for Social Security flies right through. We need a more progressive tax structure. You know what would be the biggest help to young men, would be universal child care. Because when men are most vulnerable in terms of self-harm is the year after they get divorced. And why do young people get divorced? It's not a lack of shared values. It's not infidelity. The most common reason for divorce is economic strain. And we keep transferring money from young people to old people. 40 years ago, 60% of 30-year-olds had a child in the house. Now it's 27%. It's pretty goddamn simple. Stop taking money from them and putting it in my pocket, such that people can have healthy, loving relationships without an absence of economic security. This isn't rocket science.
So I wanted to get your thoughts as I listened to Scott Galloway. That's on the Daily Show, to give credit to that cut. The thought that pops in my mind in reference to what we just talked about, Emil, is what happened politically with the current administration was they spoke to that group, but they pulled out the typical playbook that has been historically. Let me say, it is those others that are causing what you're experiencing. That is the oldest playbook in an American political system. And as a people, we keep falling for it, and we keep saying the other side is worse than the other, while, as Scott Galloway said, they're taking money from the young people and giving it to the, again, what happens almost regardless of which party you own, you're falling for the othering. And so they spoke to those young men from my perspective and said, it's the immigrants' fault. It's the DEI fault. I'm just talking about the propaganda that was used. The Democrats, in my opinion, don't speak to that group enough. Trump specifically, not even Republicans, saw something and spoke to them specifically, but offered the same old playbook, which gets you nothing. They play you with that playbook. That's my perspective on what I just saw. Your thoughts, brother? I wish we had Shelley here to get the other side, but he's not.
I would love to hear Shelley, but I think he and I agree in many ways, because this is a fundamental problem that the Democratic Party has, but all of these people have. The average age in Congress is 58 years old. The average age in the Senate, right, is 64 years old. I mean, Scott Galloway was not wrong. We don't have enough youth in Congress to really offset the policies that are coming out. There's people under 40 and especially under 30 do not want war, period. They do not want a bigger defense department, period. They do not want certain aspects. They want children to have free school lunches. That's across parties, right? These are youth speaking that don't get heard because they don't have representatives that sound like, look like, or relate to them in Congress. Congress is having a hard time with AI right now. Why? Because most of them are so out of touch with what's going on in technology And we don't have enough young people who are connected to this technology, who are digital natives and people who have a clear command of technology to be able to think about it and legislate on it from that perspective. These are all things that Scott Galloway pulled out that I think are incredibly important in terms of getting us back on the right track. You can go all young men, but when you're talking to Black young men, we're going to have to talk about over-policing. We're going to have to talk about incarceration. We're going to have to talk about unfair sentencing. We're going to have to talk about education. We're going to have to talk about after-school programs. We're going to have to talk about family structure and how to encourage families to stay together and how to use to have living wages and to start businesses and all of these kind of programs, many of which, like we talked about earlier, have been enacted and have shown gains and have not been shown to the American people. And to the point Scott Galloway makes and what you were talking about, this whole snow job of pointing the finger at everybody else instead of saying, I haven't legislated on your behalf. I haven't put programs in place that would honor you as a young worker. I haven't put policies in place to help you build a family and make it stable. I haven't done that. I take responsibility for that. And here are the things I'm going to do to fix it so that I can directly address your issue. Without pointing a finger at any other party, they could point the finger at themselves, take responsibility, and change the policies that affect these young people, especially young men. They're not doing that, and they're going to do this othering stuff until we grow up as a people and stop taking the bait and looking at somebody with brown skin or with undocumented status or who's getting too much education as the problem. It's not. The problem is right there in Congress, and it could be fixed if the people there would do their jobs and start looking at the people they represent and asking harder questions about how have I served you, and does what I do affect your daily life? They're not answering that question, and the result is young men are stepping away from the game.
Hey, the power of our one vote, we have to end Citizens United to have a shot at, in my opinion, a lot of these things that you're talking about. And so I'll always make that case. I'm going to share 3 comments here just to close out again. If you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us. Let's see. Teresa Winthrop says, Doge exposed to stealing of our money. I would highlight to you, Doge did not expose any of that factually. And I would say go back and watch some of our shows on Doge. Somebody, okay, so we'll be getting in the way of wealth transfer. What you think about? I don't know what she means by that. Your thoughts on that? She says we'll be getting.
There was supposed to be a Doge dividend check that was supposed to be, after they cut several $100 billion, and then all of that money was supposed to flow back to the individual taxpayer. Doge didn't find that much money, and they certainly didn't find more money than what the GAO and the Inspector General found. So there's no check coming.
Gotcha. Last comment from Kenny says, truth, because the boomers vote. True. Oh, yeah, makes sense. He's come out the perspective of what Galloway's saying. Boomers, because they come out and vote, they vote for policies for themselves. So that's another reason why we keep telling you your individual vote matters, while people are pulling away out of apathy. What you don't want to happen will continue to happen, because, again, for those who disavow the power of the vote, is why you see the money going upward for the first time, where money is always supposed to go downward via the generation. He says they want us to wait till they die to get our money. Young people ain't voting for schooling, housing, tax cuts. We literally can't afford to have children. Hey, great closing thought, in my opinion, Kenny. And to Kenny's point, if you are pulling away and becoming apathetic, then expect to get more of the same, I think is a fair way to end the show. I always let you close out and you got to say, and we out of here, brother.
This show and the conversations we're having are resonating with people who come on and afterward, because we're doing something very important, which is we're getting past the headline. We're having longer form conversations. We're looking at it from both perspectives that are in the popular media. Plus, we're doing something, I think, Montoya, that needs to be said. And that is, we're asking hard questions. How do you see this problem? And the answer coming from me and Shelley and Leo and yourself is, we see it very clearly beyond the propaganda. So if you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us.
Listen to us. Yep. My phone, I hope I'm not right.